Uh, Hello everyone. So welcome to the session, and let's talk about the agenda that we are going to have in today's session. Something interesting, something very new to you. If you're a Salesforce developer, if you're a regular Apex VF developer, then definitely this is something very new for you. If you have spent some good time in JavaScript kind of things or UI platform frameworks, okay, something straightforward for you. And if you never done like this, then it's a time of making this concept very clear with full concentration. So I request everyone to have full concentration because this topic is not so straightforward, and almost 99% people in the market who say or who knows lightning, out of that 99% people are not clear, not much aware, or not so confident on this topic. But anyways, as usual, we are going to put our best to make these things or concepts very very clear and strong. And that topic is nothing but events. Events in lightning. So to ensure we are very confident in events, and we will be facing any interview questions on event confidently, giving the answers and clear with the concepts. We are planning to put some good efforts in the events, that is session on session today, session tomorrow. So we'll just try to ensure that we are going to put our best time in events, because this is something, one of the most core thing in Salesforce Lightning framework programming. Okay, so let's proceed. Before we proceed, ensure that in the chat box Shekhar is selected, and not the wrong option, and let's proceed. So the first question may come in your mind, that why we need events. Okay, so if you are now till this point, we have seen so many code, we have done so many activities, so we never use event, or even in fact we never spoke about event. So then how come we did so many programs? So please note, we did this so many programs where the event was not necessary. It was a situation where event is not needed. Okay, so then what is the case where event is needed? Okay, now let me tell you what are the cases where events are necessary. So till this point, what we have done, we have used one lightning component where we wrote entire business logic, maybe in client side controller, maybe the helper, maybe any kind of connected Apex class where the server side business logic is present, and that's it. This kind of activity we have done, and this component we have called via any application, and that's it, problem solved. Whether you can use this application in lightning out, or you use in mobile, or you use in lightning experience, or you use in home page of lightning experience, whatever you do, by directly calling to component and skipping the application, that's it. But this is not the only thing we do in real-time project. For example, in Apex VF page, all the scenarios, what you have seen that we have a visual force page where we display something to user. But we don't use only one VF page. We use sometimes two VF pages, multiple VF pages. And this way only the entire projects get completed. For example, you are going for a project of, let's say, a shopping mall management, and let's say a big chain of shopping mall is using Salesforce, which was done by one of my previous client. So let's say page one is your daily transactions, what you did. You are going to enter on the page one the daily sale of your branch, and once you submit, then the again second page gets redirected, and in that second page you are going to mention how many orders you need now for the next week. and again mention the orders or what all the quantities are there and etc., or select the option, save it, done, that's it. So here from day 1 to day 2, or sorry, from page 1 to page 2, you are passing some information, and you are using the information in the second page in terms of how many goods are sold and how much is balance. According to that, we can display something. Apart from that, there are so many cases in which in real-time project we pass value from one page to another page, that page to another page. So this way, this is very important to ensure that we have some mechanism by which the pages between the pages are able to communicate between them, VF page to VF page 2. So such kind of scenarios are there. For example, you go for a kind of you go for any kind of railway reservation ticket, and in the page 1 you fill the form of your family details, and in the second page it will show you the payment detail, right? So how the transfer happens from page 1 to page 2? So it transfers internally the data which is related to your transactions ID, your bill, let's say that is your amount you need to pay, and then in the second page it will show you amount to pay and the list of the family member and the final information before you make the payment. Exactly in the same note, now we don't use VF page in Lightning. So in the Lightning, replacement of VF page is nothing but component, and here also component. So in short, for communicating, for making the VF page ready for the real-time project, we have to work on the communication between VF pages. Similarly, to ensure our Lightning component is capable enough to deal with the real-time project scenarios, we must have communication between components. To make it more simple, events are nothing but the source, the process, the mechanism by which we can communicate between two components. So, in short, this is component 1. This is component 2 in Lightning. They want to communicate. They can only do this by event, and via event they are going to communicate. In short, to transfer the data between one component to another component, we use event. Okay, so till this point everything is clear. The moral is we use multiple components in real-time projects. Multiple components can be connected to each other, and they would like to have communication between each other because they want to transfer the data. To transfer the data, we need the concept called as event. Okay, so this is what event in Lightning component. Now let's try to see how we can achieve this. Any question till this point? Are you clear now why event is needed? How to use this? That is other thing. But right now, are you clear why events are necessary? Everyone clear? Okay. Okay, great. So good to see that almost everyone said clear. Now it's time to go for next level. Okay, so now we know to send the data between two components, that is communicate, we need event. Okay, now next thing that we are going to see is something about events in detail. Okay, so let me talk about that. Pay attention, and here we go. Some notes for you. So pay attention on the notes now. Events are very important in developing the Lightning component, as we will always work with more than one Lightning component, and if yes, then we need to always communicate between them, right? And so example, We use multiple Visual Force pages and we need to pass data between them so that they can communicate with each other. In the same way, we use multiple Lightning components in real-time project and we need concept of event for communicating between the components that you know very well. So now why to communicate? Just a simple answer, pass the data, that's it. Because one component may have another business logic, another component may have another business logic, but they need to transfer the data between them. The way I told you, Visual Force page 1 will just take the data of your family members who are going to travel a journey, and second page may show you the bill amount or how much you need to pay and connect to payment gateway. But the data is common for them. The data is same and the functionality is different. So this is a very popular format in every programming language, same in Visual Force page, same in Lightning component. Hence, Lightning programming is called as event-driven programming because here events are driving factors. So here what happens that whenever you work in a real-time project, some event happens, pass the data. Again, some event happens, pass the data. So this way it's a totally oriented towards event. And here event is a very key component in Lightning programming. And that is the reason I told you that this is one of the very important topic in Lightning. So you are going to use so many times events in Lightning programming, the way triggers are driving factor in the Apex VF combination where something happens and trigger perform some kind of activity. Same way here we are going to do the same thing. Okay, the same way in classic, triggers are driving factor which performs some action when some events happen by user. Event means in term short, you can say event or you can say any kind of DML activity. Okay, in other words, DML activity means insert, update, anything. So same concept, trigger is going to start something, here event is going to start something, a driving factor. Okay, next, now if I just talk about now how it works, then let's talk about this. So how this event works? So this kind of events are going to start how, in what format, what process? So see, first of all, please note another important thing that we need to understand. Even though events are mainly used to ensure we are passing data between component, there must be well defined process by which the events are getting started. So we need to first of all start this process. Transferring is the process that we need to start, and this is done based on event driven mechanism where user performs something, then event gets started, then data is sent to other component. Simple. Okay, so this way it works. So how it works, user may perform some activity, say button click, and then it will be called as an event. Okay, so here and so it's an event. Button press is an event. To that event we will handle to perform some desired thing using handler. Okay, now here try to understand one important thing. In other words, the data sending component are called as notifier, and data receiving components are called as handlers. Simple. Okay. So for example, here let's say I have component A, lightning component A, where I'm going to enter all the information about the orders which the customer is giving. Let's say he is looking for some kind of insurance policy, and he said, I have 5 family members, I want, my age is this, my earning is this, my salary is this, and etc, etc. Once it is done, the data is transferred to other components, and other components displays, okay, for you suitable policies are this, and please press on this button so that we can send this information to you by email. Or let's say we can perform this kind of activity, let's say to send an SMS, anything, just some kind of use cases I'm telling you. Okay, now this is done via event. This is done by event, and this is a component which is called as notifier, which is going to notify, and this component is going to call as handler, which is going to handle the event. Okay, so notifying means nothing but the component which is going to send the data via event to another component, and handler is another component which is going to receive the data again, of course, via event, and then going to do something. Simple. Okay, by the way, please note, they just don't do this kind of things for time pass. Okay, someone is sending, someone is receiving. This is not time pass, just they're not taking and giving. Ultimately, by receiving the data, we need to perform something. So understand carefully, this is something, a gap which many people have. So they don't understand the mapping between the events, and they don't understand the driving mechanism that happens when you say that events are nothing but the mode by which we can transfer the data. So are we just going to make a time pass, send the data, and that's it, nothing? No, we are sending the data and then we are going to do something, and that is the reason we are sending the data, right? So in this case, we are going to send the data from the notifier, and second component is going to take the data and perform some kind of business action. So this, in our example, it is going to take the data of the user, going to say, let's say for example, category of the user, let's say for example, a user which is possible or worth for taking family insurance, or worth taking the shop insurance, or worth taking term insurance. Any kind of such insurance calculation we do and display, you you should be, our advice is you should be going for this 3 4 insurance policy. So here the person's details we transfer from the event to that event, event from this component to that component. Okay, then component 2 shown some information, and then the business step continued. And this is what we do, we transfer the data by event, handler takes that. Yeah, so let me repeat. So please note here, the component 1 is going to send the data via event to component 2, the information about the person who is filling the form about his personal details. Depending on these details, we will advise to that person that you are eligible for this types of insurance. Please select any insurance, and that's business process continued. Okay, so this was the entire cycle starts, and this is the reason, as component 2 takes something and handles that and performs something, that's the reason it's called as handler. This is called as notifier. Okay, so remember these terms, these are very important: notifier, handler, events. Three important things. Till this point we understood, and this entire structure is event driven, because without something happens, event is not going to come into the picture. If event is not going to come into the picture, data will not be sent from component 1 to component 2. And this way, the transfer will never happen. Your Lightning project will do nothing. It will be useless. Okay? That is the reason the entire structure is based on the central part, events. And that is the reason this entire structure of Lightning framework is called as event-driven architecture. Fine. So let's go to next level. We are going step by step, making all the things clear. Have a full focus and full attention, and let's continue for the next level. So how it works? So user may perform some activity that we have seen, okay, And now, in other words, the data sending components are called as notifier and data receiving components are called as handlers. Okay, next example. Component, now I'm going to give you one real-time example from my previous project. So, real-time case example. Component A takes data about company with which we are going to make make business. Okay, and then when we press a submit button, it will send this data to component B via event, and component B will display the category and business plans that we can perform for this customer. So you can see here by event information is transferred from this to that. Component A just took the data, component B automatically shown what kind of business plans we can have. Okay, this is one of the case from my previous project. Let's proceed. So now till this point, what all important things we need to know? Events are used for passing data from one component to another, that is clear. To store some data, of course, we need attributes. Now this is something new for you. Now you tell me, you're talking about transferring the data. But don't you think while transferring the data we should store somewhere? Because ultimately, whether you go for a classic programming, you go for a lightning programming, you need variable. Without variable, no one is able to store the data, right? So in the events, we also need a variable. For example, if you see in the previous example, whenever we write lightning component, at the top we declare the attributes, that is nothing but the variables which are actually going to save some data in this component, correct? Similarly, in the event, there must be some kind of space variables you must be having, which is going to contain the data and transfer the data to other component. So in other words, you are sending the data from component 1 and you are sending the data to component 2, no problem. This is happening via event, no problem. But in the event, we should have some variable. Otherwise, how you are going to save the data? It's a basic rule of programming. Without variable, no one can save the data. And this variable, of course, you know very well, we don't say variable in lightning, we say attributes. In classic programming, we say variable. In Visual Force page, in the Apex, yes, we can say variable. Here we say attribute. So please note, lightning component must have attribute. It's straightforward, it's a common sense. Without that, how it can save the information? Next, events can contain attributes that can be set before the event is fired and read when the event is handled. Yes, correct. So here, before the event is fired, we will first of all set the data. We are going to say, please send the information customer's name. Let's talk about the insurance scenario. Customer name, his age, and his current earning. Three information we need so that we can decide that person can be eligible for which kind of policy, and then load this data in that event and then transfer this event to, that is event information will be transferred to component 2. Component 2 will receive the data and it will see, okay, the age is 40, okay, salary is, let's say, 5 lakh rupees per month, and let's say, I'm talking about USA guys, not India guys, and let's say family member, let's say 2. So let's do one thing, as dependency is high and if anything's happened to this person, then it's going to be a problem for the family, so let's go for term insurance. So this way the logic is executed in component B, okay, component 2. This way the entire structure happens. Okay, so let me now go for next point. Events may get fired due to some user activity or sometimes without it as well. Now this is just for your knowledge that there are multiple ways by which from because of one activity or because of some condition happening or matching, we can call the events as well. For example, indirectly we can call, and this just needs, it is because events are events can or events are called just by some small code of JavaScript, and this code we can call anytime. Okay, so please note, ultimately this actually is happening because of few lines of JavaScript. So when I'm going to show you the code, you will realize there are for sure 3-4 lines of codes of JavaScript, that's it. Because of that, the data goes to the other component. Now this JavaScript we can call anytime. Maybe user clicks on the button, or maybe some kind of other scenario happen, maybe some kind of calculation comes like this, or maybe some kind of results happen like this, or maybe we get some kind of data from server and then we need to pass to the component. So this way it can be any situation. Okay, maximum times user perform something and then data send, it is the popular way of events. Okay, but there are multiple ways because it just matter of calling JavaScript function, that's it, that we can call by any way. Next, events are always fired from client-side controller or in helper actions as it is possible by JavaScript code. Simple common sense, right? You already know that there are only two things in the Lightning bundle. That is, one is the JavaScript controller that is called as client-side controller. Second thing is the helper. These are the only two things where we can write JavaScript code. And as Lightning events needs JavaScript code, so of course only in two way we can perform this action. Events are declared by using Aura event tag in the event resource. So that is again something related to syntax. You don't need to worry about that because whenever we are going to create the event, at that time you will understand that we declare by what tag and what we use. Okay, so this is something which you can see while we are doing practical. Don't worry about these things. Focus on concept. Events can be of any type, component event or application event. Okay, now please note these are the two types, or let me mention here, events are of two types. One is component event and second is application event. Now this is something again very important, you need to remember. It's something which is a very popular interview question asked in almost all the interviews based on Lightning, and some companies will stop here only by asking you this question. Some companies will dig more. Okay, then why we use component event and why we use application and event, and what is the difference between them? And here where I told you that 99% people get blocked because they don't understand what to answer, because this is something which is you can say a dark area in Lightning where people mostly fear, or let's say they are unclear about these things. Anyways, this is same like the workflow evaluation criteria third. Every time it's edited or edited in such a way that it's matching with the criteria. The way it's still a dark point or dark concept for many people, even though working in Salesforce from 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, still people can't explain why we need to use third option. It's the same area where the concepts are a bit unclear. But anyways, the way we saw in our admin syllabus, we have made that third concept of workflow rule very clear. Any kind of interview question comes, we can answer in that context. Same here also, we are going to prepare whatever event questions they are going to ask, we will be able to answer with confidence. We are going to have lots of activities, we are going to spend lots of time in events. Just be ready with your concentration. Next, so the important things you must know is done. Now it's time to go for another interview question. What are two types of events, and why we need that, and etc, etc, some detailings about that. Okay, and in fact details of two types of event. Okay, so let's see the types of events in detail, and which is again something important interview question they will ask you for sure. Okay, so first let's talk about component event. Now please note, before I proceed, I'm going to show you one diagram. This diagram will build your background will make you ready to understand generally how events work. So I request, try to understand this background carefully, and then you will understand generally what actually they do. So here we go, and pay attention. This is the diagram which generally is explaining you events. So this is the reason it is called as event driven programming. Everywhere event, 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 event. That's it. Now here we can see there are multiple ways by which events can be used. You don't need to worry about all these things. You just need to worry about the core concept. For example, if I know how to use trigger, then I can use the trigger in a before insert of way. I can use that in after insert way. I can use in before delete way. I can use in before update way. I can use in any way. So in the same way, you just focus on the core concept of event, and then everything will be easy for you. Let me tell you the case number one. Please note the component which is calling the event itself can handle it. It will only fire the event, it will only handle this. Now this is something, a case, this is which is very rare, and this is something which we don't take at the beginning level to ensure we are having 100% quality, 100% clarity and no confusion. So just only understand this is also possible that a component only fires the event and it only takes the event. Something about that we will discuss laterwards. There is nothing to worry about this, as it's not so popular, not so important for your journey. Second, second case. Now here a subcomponent. Please note C is a subcomponent of component B, the main component. That, by the way, we are going to see how this kind of things happen in today's session if we get the time, or else tomorrow for sure. A subcomponent, that is a component under one component, here will fire the event, and again itself it can handle this or use the data, or the outside component, the upper level component, the container component will handle it. Okay, now this is something which is popular in the market. The child component, internal component, is going to pass the data to parent component. Okay, so this is also possible. Now you just try to understand what all the things are possible. Don't bring the question in your mind when. If you bring this question right now, when, that is when to use this, then I'm very sure you are going to divert your concentration. This is not the area to focus on when. Just try to understand what, and that's it. What are possible things, that's it. Don't worry about when to use this, when to use that, and if you go in that direction, you'll definitely divert your concentration. Just understand what all the things are possible, that's it. Okay, just understand what you can do with your vehicle, your four-wheeler vehicle. You can drive like this, you can drive like that. Don't start driving immediately, just wait. And first of all, we have lots of time to learn how to drive the four-wheeler, so don't worry about this. Just understand what all the things are there, what is gear, what is steering wheel, what is brake, that's it. Don't worry about driving. Okay, so this is also possible. This kind of things also possible. Component will fire the event and the same component will handle that, or a child component which is going to fire the event and the data is going to be taken by parent component. It means child component will pass the data, parent component will get the data. Simple. Second case. Third case. Third case, component is going to, the component is going to, now this kind of format is going to be completely different. Here please note this case 1, this case 2, they are called as component type of event. What is the second type of event? What is the second type? Tell me. Case number 1, case number 2, these are related to component type. What is the second type? Yes, very good. Second type of event is application. Now here in the application level event, please note, the work is completely different. The work is completely different. Here, please note, here a event can be used or taken care by multiple components in the environment. Anyways, we are not going to discuss about that today or even tomorrow, but don't worry about it. It's a different concept. Okay, so please note, here the concept is we know who is going to, we are going to send to whom and who is going to receive. And here please note, we don't know who is actually going to receive, because it's going to send to all the components in the application. Okay, now here is one important example you need to understand. Pay attention, very important. Example number one, pay attention, it's very important point. This will make everything clear, whatever we saw in this diagram till this point, the main difference between them. Suppose let's say let's say you have you have let's say perform any kind of activity. Let's say it's a it's a Facebook application. Okay, and it's a Facebook application, and in that Facebook application generally we have a concepts of group, right? Groups like private group, public group, or let's say some kind of pages. If you post a message that uh, if you post a message for security reason, you want to, it's a personal information, that is the reason you are sending in a private group, and you post a message that this is my mobile number, and this is my requirement. I'm looking for, one flat, one two BHK flat I'm looking for, and if anyone uh, has any kind of information, please call my on this number, or this is my home address, so you can also inform the broker or agent to contact me. Now this is something a confidential information, and you want that only the group members should be watching that information, your phone number, your WhatsApp number, your home address. Okay, in that group, you know, only your colleagues are there, your office colleagues, and you trust them, they are all professionals. So you know that in that group only the people within your office, they are going to present, and that is the reason you just send the information to this group, a closed group. Second information is nothing but a page, a Facebook page. Now you don't know who can see this, who is going to receive this, we don't know. You put, and here you carefully mention a message that I'm looking for a 2 BHK flat. If anyone is having the option, then send to this email address. Now you are giving email because you don't know who is going to receive this information. Anyone can see the information and misuse your phone number or your home address. So you send your just email address, you said contact on this email, right? So the first case, you know that you are the sender, and who are going to receive, those only 5 people in your company, they are going to receive. Here we don't know who are going to receive, you are just going to paste, you are going to just send, I want 2 BHK flat, that's it. You don't know who are going to receive. Everyone on the internet can receive that. Exactly in the same manner, here also, when we go with the component type of event, we know we are going to send to whom, who is going to receive, we know that either the same component or the parent component. But at the application table of event, please note, in our entire application, if we have 20 components, let's say in a complex lightning project, one application, inside that application we are having 20 lightning components, all these components will get this event, and they can, anyone can take the data, anyone can use this data. Okay, so again repeating that in the component type of event, we know that we are sending to which, because we are only the developer, so we know that who are going to take it, and this way one component will pass to another component, that's it, fixed. In the application, whenever the event is going to fire, means we are going to send the data. That data is received by everyone, every component in that application. So here we have less control, and that is the reason the best practice of Salesforce says, as much as possible, try to use component event as much as possible. Okay, you have some kind of scenario where you want to send the data to all the components, Anyways, we are going to see this example of application event in future. Don't worry about that. If you really feel okay, I must send the information to all the components in the application, okay, then you go for application type of event. No problem, go for that. But as much as possible, avoid application event and go for the component event only. Okay, so this is something about the key difference, how the event driven programming works, how the possibilities are there by which the things are transferred. Everything we have seen, we are going through very important concepts. I'm requesting any kind of questions you are having, quickly ask. We are making it very step by step journey. Just I want you guys, don't wait. If you have any kind of questions, just keep asking. Okay, let's go into the details of this, whatever we have seen. So details of the types of event. First is component event, which is the most widely used, most used, or popular type of event. Let's see what we have something about that. A component event is fired by a component, right? Fine, correct. By the way, same with application, so nothing different, just we are explaining. That's the reason this line is there. Both are fired by component. A component event can be handled by the component that fired the event, correct? We just saw that. Or component event can be handled by a component in the upper level hierarchy, that also we very well know. Okay, so you should be having no doubt till this point. That's it. You don't need to worry about anything. That's it. This information is sufficient. You don't need any extra information. Let's talk about application event in a short. Application event follows a traditional publish subscribe model. Now, please note, this is a model which is used in many technologies platform where we publish and someone is going to subscribe. It's a kind of a broadcasting kind of model where we are going to send and everyone is going to receive. Just imagine the just imagine the WhatsApp communication, right? So here, in another words, this is like a WhatsApp chat where I am sending the message to person A, that is one to one chat. I'm sending him directly, right? And here, in another words, this is like WhatsApp broadcast option. So I am sending this info to all users. To make it more easy, let's say WhatsApp group chat option. So whatever I'm going to send, and because many people don't know what is broadcast option, maybe they are not using that, so better to ensure you guys will be clear, because I don't know whether you use broadcast options or not. So let me go for group, because WhatsApp group you might have definitely used. So it's I'm sending to WhatsApp group, everyone can see that. Okay, like this. So whatever those all people in that group, they can see. Okay, so here an application event is fired from the component, same thing. Okay, so let me just cut this and put at the start, because it's a beginning line in the previous component also, and it follows additional publish subscribe model in another word. And all components that provide a handler for that events are notified. In short, all components in that application who say we are ready to handle that event, those all handler those all handler components are notified. Simple, right? So those all components who say yes, we are ready, we can handle this. In short, we can make it all the components. So generally we do this for all the components. And let's say you want to make it limited, you can make it, but please note, all the components in the application also possible. So all those who are ready, that's it, all will be notified. Now this way it works. In other words, this is like WhatsApp group chat, and I'm sending this info to all users. Okay, next. Now what is the key difference? The main difference between application and component event is that component event can only be handled by parent component, and application event can be handled in all over the application. Very, very important difference. Okay. Now, as you understood all these things, then please note one more thing, one more important thing. Component event needs to be registered and handled, but application event only need to handle, no need to register. Okay, so what is the meaning of that? That I'm going to explain you that when we are going to see the application event. But please note here we need to mention, in other words, we don't need to tell lightning framework that who is framework that uh, who is the sender, the way we have to do in component, if a component type of event. Here just we need to mention who or who all are the receivers. Just that's it. Just we mention who all are the receivers, and the step where we put one at when we put a tag at the top of the component, we mention this is the sender. We give a label. This is the sender. This is the receiver. Now in this case, you don't need to mention. Again, it's a minor thing. This is something about the syntax, so you don't need to worry about that. As we generally focus on uh, concept. Okay. Fine, so you have understood difference. Again, this is something very, very popular into question. They will definitely ask you in terms of the key difference. Just you are explaining this, something like this and all these things, that's also sufficient. Sometimes they will go into the details. They will ask you, okay, then tell me in terms of implementation, what difference you found, or let's say they will ask you. So, let me mention here. So if we show you the code for notifier component of notifier component of component event, as well as application event, uh, then how, by just looking at code, you can tell which one is a component event. So how can we say? Very simple. So the code of uh, see this one, I'm talking about this one. Okay, so here we just need to mention which you are going to receive, and here we just need to mention about the handle. Here we don't need to register. Okay, so please note, component event needs to be registered. So component event component event component event needs to be registered, and by looking at register register code, we can say this is component event scenario. Okay, so please note, by looking at the code we can understand this is related to that. Okay, fine. So now which is nothing but this line. Let me show you the line also, so that you guys will be it will be easy for you to understand. Just give 1 second. Let me mention what is the registration, and here let me just, okay. So by looking at the register code, okay, which is nothing but example is this. Okay, so this is nothing but the example of registration. So this we need to mention, this line should be there at the top of the component, which is going to be part of the component type of event, and this we don't need at the application type of event. Okay. Next, so which events do we use and when? Now pay attention. First of all, always try to use the component event instead of application event as much as possible. Already told you. Component events can only be handled by the component above them in the hierarchy, so their usage is more localized to the components that need to know about them. In short, we know that it is something related to the local part, and where in application events are best used for something that should be handled at the application level, such as like we want to perform some kind of activity at the application level, and we want to do this kind of activity for multiple events and send the information to multiple events. And application events allow communication between components that are in the separate part of the application, no problem, and have no direct connection between them. That's also fine. Okay, so pay attention. Again explaining. So always try to use component event instead of application event as much as possible, because it's the best practice. One more reason, component events can only be handled by components above them that we know in the hierarchy, so their usage is more localized, because we know, suppose, pay attention, suppose this is my application. I have component here, I have component here, I have component here. Now there is a sub component like this. Now suppose this component is going to send the information, we know it is local, this much area only, it's going to be notified. This is not going to be notified, not this. So it's a kind of controlled activity, and that is the reason people prefer the component type of event. Okay, and next, application events are best used for something that should be handled at the application level, where we need to send non-localized data like record ID, and pass to all components which are part of that application. Okay, so in this case, again let me explain the example. So now this is something, your application, and you have component 1, you have component 2, and you have component 3, and now you are sending some data from this component, or let's say even by any sub component you are sending the data, and the data is getting transferred. Now you are looking to send to this also, to this also. Let everyone use that, not a problem, because it's an information which is common to all. So you can see, by this way we can perform any kind of activity. So this component, which is the child component, is sending the information which is going to this also, which is going to this also. And next we have another component C, it will go to this also, and this way it will be sent to all the components within that application. Don't forget, within the application only. Your WhatsApp message in a group doesn't go to outside of WhatsApp application or any other group. It will be within the group only. So that group is like your application, it will stay within that application, but it will be sent to all the members in that particular WhatsApp group. Okay, and yeah, and one more thing, application event allows communication between components that are in separate parts of the application, means multiple components that we saw, no having no direct containment or connection relationship between them, or not a part of subpart. That is, see, now tell me, what is the connection between this component? Are they part of each other? No. Or what about, let's say, this one and this one? Are they connected to each other, part of each other? No, no connection. They are just part of one application. So this way also, if you are having interest in working in this kind of scenario, go for application level event. And now the next thing which we need to see is the component event code, but I don't want to burden you guys and put even or generate even 1% doubt in your mind on one of the very very important topic for your career, and that is the reason I'm going to stop here, because whatever you saw is very very important to handle any kind of interview, except they ask you some kind of practical things to write a code, which anyone is anyways not going to ask you. Okay, now let me go for the overview again, whatever we saw. Please pay attention. Point number 1, pay attention, very important overview. The way we transfer the data between multiple Visual Force pages, similarly we also need to transfer the data in Lightning component, because the replacement of Visual Force page is component. And how can we live with one Visual Force page in a real-time project? Similarly, how can we live with a one component only? We have multiple components for multiple business cases. Then don't you think we need to transfer the data between them? We need to, and that is only possible by events. Second, Okay, then what events will do? Simple. Event will load the data, transfer the data from one component to another component. And the sender component is called as the notifier component, which is going to send the data, and the second component which is going to receive it is called as handler component. Why it's called as handler? Because it's going to handle that event will come to that component and will say, see, I have this data, now you handle it. The component B will say, okay, let me take the data. It will take the data and it will do some kind of action. And by the way, it is not just for time pass. We are going to take the data and send the data. By taking data, we will do some kind of business activity. That anyways, we are going to see whenever we are going to see any example of lightning uh, component, component events code. That is tomorrow session. Next, now you are clear about the work of events. Now next is type. We have two types. One is component event, second is application event. The most popular is component event. We get advised to use component event because we have more control. Why? Because in the component event, now let's say this is your component in your application, component 1, and this is a small component between that component 2. By the way, writing a component between another component is called as subcomponent. It's just writing one component line in another component, nothing so technical. Just one line we mention and we declare that component as a part of another component, so you don't worry about that. What is the meaning of child component that you are going to see tomorrow? Just one line we mention. So for example, I have some code of component A, assume that this is component A, okay, and then by declaring just component B, that's it. And this is the code of component A. That's it. This is called a child component. That's it. Nothing technical or nothing difficult or nothing something hard or something like that. Okay. So this is point number one. Second thing, second thing. So point number one we saw. So if you have a component, inside that we have another component, that is a child component, and this is a parent component. So here you want to transfer the data, it's going to receive, this is the case, or you are going to transfer the data, parent is going to receive, this is the case. Go for component level event. And I already told you, don't worry about this. This is generally we don't use in real-time projects. The way, for example, when I teach trigger topic, I told you, don't worry about the undelete trigger. Hardly you will see any case in your career where you go for undelete trigger event. You are going to see lots of time before insert, before update, after insert, after update, but undelete something very rare. Similarly, this is very rare. You don't worry about this. Now you are sending the data from child to parent component. This is controlled. I know that within the component of parent component only, in this area only transfer is going to happen. It's a controlled way. We prefer this. Second is where you have this entire application and where you have so many components and you want to transfer the data, but let it go to anyone, no problem. A child component sending or a main component sending and sending to every component, don't worry, no problem, we can send it. So this is also possible, and this kind of model is called as the application level event model, where all the events are getting notified. Whoever is ready, take it. Whoever is not ready, leave it. No problem. Okay. But now how to bring this in action and how to see this kind of thing in example with a practical situation, that we are going to see tomorrow. If you are 100% clear, I'm saying 100% clear with today's session, then please type clear in the chat box. Everyone please proceed so that we can close the session. If not clear, please ask. Until you are clear, we are not going to stop, because I know the seriousness of this topic for your career. Everyone clear? Reply in the chat box. Fantastic. So now my request is watch this video one more time before you come to tomorrow session. I'm going to load this video immediately after the close session is closed, so that maybe in next 1 2 hour I'm going to send you this video and then you can just watch that. There is a question, component 1 to component 2 you have to use application level event. Yes, correct. Yes, those, but I hope you are saying disconnected component. They are not connected with each other, right? Correct? They're separate component. Yes, then very good, you are going correct. If they are having no connection between them, some separate components, yes, we use application level event. Very good. Okay guys, let's meet tomorrow. Have a great time. See ya.